Is Erin is our producer, technician?
Erin's the acting secretary in the absence of an official secretary, and there were no available clerks this evening.
Nice.
Okay, so I will call the meeting to order and we'll start with a pledge to the flag. I do not have a flag convenient to hold up, so we can just do it without.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Secretary Anowen, would you do the roll call?
Yes. All right. Chair Lindstrom. Mr. Williams.
Present.
Mr. Grosso.
Present.
Ms. Maloney. Ms. Maloney is absent. Mr. Jones.
Present.
Mr. Zarowski.
Present.
Mr. Pinsky.
Present.
And also present are Attorney Mary Lou Christina and alternate Zachary Jarvis.
Great, thanks so much. So I do not have any announcements, and there are none that were sent to me to make either. So we have our workshop meetings from the June 28th meeting. Actually, I don't know what this June 20, oh yeah, do we want to have a June 28th workshop meeting is actually the question. Or should we cancel it? I think,
Only if we need to.
yeah, I think that we should cancel it because I was not given instructions that we needed to have it. Mary Lou, do you have any insight on that?
You know, I don't have any insight on it, but it's something we kind of always do at the beginning of a meeting, and I think it
Yeah.
might be better to do that at the end of the
I
meeting.
was just
so you
gonna
can
say
see
that.
what transpires.
Let's table that and then we'll come back to it. There's no trainings that I'm aware of to share with people. And then we have our May 10th regular meeting minutes to approve. So I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
I
then.
have a question, quick question.
On
It
on
says
the minute- on the
yeah,
minute,
it says
William?
draft in the file. Yeah,
Well,
it
they're
has a draft.
They're draft till you approve it.
It's a draft till we approve it.
Okay, never mind.
So
Thank
it
you.
is, now that the motion is carried, it is no longer a draft, so you can erase that from your screen. Okay, so the first
Okay.
application on our agenda tonight is PB 2020-09. It's a lot line adjustment and it's a amended / new application. It's Streamside Estates, Michael Baum. This is the parcel where there was talk of a subdivision. There were issues primarily with wetlands and also some access issues that came back to us now as a lot line improvement. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. Maren is more skilled at this part than I am. Let's see. Here it is. So it's this parcel here. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
And basically we're just, how do I get to notate? Basically we're just whoa, that was not. Anyway, it's this area here that's being added to lot 1. So is there someone here from the applicant that wants to? present
Yes,
anything?
Barry Middenbach's here, and I believe the
Yep.
applicant Mike is here. And I'm not sure, but is attorney Mike Moriello, are you one of the phone numbers there? If so, speak up, but he may not. But yeah, we've been before the planning board on this. This is an existing mobile home park. It has 16 sites in it. It's been there for a long time prior to zoning. The lot had the well not on it. And the well used to serve multiple properties, used to serve the hotel across the street as a very good, reliable well. And that's the primary well now for the mobile home park. And Michael Baum owns both of the parcels, and it was never an issue in the past that the well was on one and the mobile home was on the other. But now he wants to sell off the lot, and he needs to create a parcel of land that so that the well goes with the mobile home park. We looked at doing an easement. The health department's code doesn't really like that. They'd like you to own the well. So we're creating a 100-foot piece of land around the well so that they will own within 100 feet of the well that is serving the mobile home park. And that's what this is all about. It's just cutting that piece off of what I guess we're calling lot 2 now to include in the mobile home park.
Okay, great. Anything else, Barry?
Nope, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so I had a few notes on this, but before I do my notes, I can go around and see if anyone else has anything. So Rick, why don't we start with you? Do you have anything?
Yeah, so this was revised from the last time. Barry, last time it was the well property was going to go with the mobile home park, and also he wanted to do something on the lot down in the right-hand corner, the bottom, center bottom. So that's no longer part of this revised
That is
application.
correct.
Okay. That was
That's
it,
you, good,
Chair.
Rick? Cool. Mr. Grosso, do you have anything?
I actually had the same question that Rick did, so no, I'm all set.
Mr. Williams?
I'm good with it. Looks fine to me.
Okay, Mr. Pinsky, I know you have a question.
Yeah, I read the code enforcement letter and what is depicted on last site plan. The area contradict what code enforcement wrote. I think he wrote subtraction or addition, something like that, in area. I don't have a close-up of that, but let me grab that email that I sent to you, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Barry, it was that the numbers didn't all match up between the code enforcement and the maps. So we just want to confirm that the numbers that end up going in the decision are correct.
Which numbers are you referring to?
Hold on, let me just stop my share for a second and pull up. Yeah, so I believe that it should be 1.3 acres conveyed from 43.151 to 43.141. And I think the CEO letter that we have just says something a little bit different. Does that sound right to you, Zorian? I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
just a typing error from the CEO.
EO says
yeah.
0.25 acres.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure that the decision is correct when we write it up. That the map is correct.
Yeah, we're
Sam,
conveying.
everybody,
So
go ahead.
that 1.3 acres will be conveyed from what is lot 43.14 to 43.151.
Okay, yeah, that's what we have here. It's 1.3 acres from .141 to .151.
Okay, on the application for zoning permit, it did say convey a quarter acre from lot 43.141. So maybe that was incorrect.
Well, there's been probably 3 applications made on this.
Okay,
Are you looking at the most recent one?
We just want to make sure that the decision that gets filed is correct.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
decision.
I'm
is
with you
written-
100% on that.
Cool. Yeah, the decision matches what's on the map that was submitted. So we just want to just confirm everything.
The map is correct.
Great. So then we're good.
Barry, one more comment on that. That lot that says 45.6, it should be 45.7 because of rounding up. You guys pointing 36.2 plus 9.2 plus 0.3. It makes 45.7, not 45.6.
I'll have the surveyors confirm that.
Say it again, please.
I will get the surveyors. I will ask them to confirm that. You know, that they will still
Okay.
look at the actual description of closure and verify that that is the correct acreage. You may be right. It may have just gotten rounded off on the computer and went the wrong
Right.
way.
Okay, and then the other question that I had is, do we have a planning board permit with our secretary, not a permit application? We don't have one in the file, but I'm assuming that's just kind of that we don't have a secretary, so that a few of those little details are slipping through.
We filed, I got so much paperwork here.
Yeah.
I know that on, what's the date on this? In the 24th of May, we filed, or no, it was actually the 18th of May, a $15 fee with the zoning application.
Yeah, I see that. And then that was the zoning permit application, but I don't have in the file a lot line application.
That's possible we didn't file that.
Okay.
I know we filed one in the past, but that would need to be
Right.
revised.
right.
Okay.
So,
So
and
Mary
that
Lou,
would
that's your
also
question.
clarify the 1.3 acres as opposed to the 0.25.
Right. So Mary Lou, can we, in the absence of that lot
No,
line,
We
we
need
can
an
move forward?
application,
What's that?
have an application. We can't grant something without an application.
Okay. So then what we need to do here then is we'll just put this on the agenda for the next meeting, and we just
Table it and
need,
Barry get in and do the lot
we just
line.
need the lot line.
We can't just use the old application for the subdivision?
The old application's for a subdivision. It's a different application.
So what is
Hey,
the
Mary Lou,
application? If it's not a subdivision application?
No, it's a lot
No,
line.
now it's a
Lot
lot
line
line.
It's a
improvement.
lot line adjustment, which is
And you
much
have-
easier.
Then you have a separate application to fill out for that?
Yeah, so you did the zoning permit, and then code enforcement office referred it to us, and there's a separate application and an additional, I believe, $15 fee. It also may have just not been given to you right away because we're short-staffed on our end. But we do have to,
Right.
yeah, based on what Mary Lou's saying, we just have to wait until the next meeting to approve it.
All right, so what we're really missing is the lot line application
Yes.
And the fee for that.
and the fee.
Mhm.
Hey, Mary Lou, this is Michael. Can you hear me?
No, yes, I can.
Michael Moriello. Anyway, I couldn't get in on the Zoom thing. I don't know, maybe I'm just a nitwit, but I couldn't figure out how to get in on the computer. So I had to go on the phone. But anyway, we can change, or we can put in an application, lot line revision application with the fee. Is there a public hearing with this or no
No.
public hearing?
There's no public hearing.
No,
Yeah. And
Okay,
then the only other thing that was going to be asked for on this was just to make sure that we have the lot line improvement plan note, Barry, which I know you have in your file, just on the final map.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Our town of Rochester lot line improvement plan note. It's just
Okay.
And just so the board knows too, I asked Alan Dumas, I had a conversation with Alan Dumas about the easement itself crossing across either the 200-foot area or the 100-foot of control area, 200 feet of control and 100 foot of ownership. Alan says that any crossing or utilities, any of the things can go in there. It's not a problem to put those kind of improvements just to keep the linkage between the two parcels, and for ingress and egress, or if you needed fire access or whatever. But I just want to let the board know that I did check with Alan. Alan was, just for those who might not know, Alan was the longtime director of environmental sanitation for the county. So this was his bailiwick. He works for Bernier and Larios now, but I did have a good conversation with him about it and checked it out with him.
Okay. So then I guess for this now, we're gonna table it, and Barry, you'll get the lot line improvement application, and then we'll be able to approve it at the next.
Yes.
And Mary Lou, do we have to say that it's type 2 by code for seeker, or that's just implied?
You don't have to say it. Maren likes to say it, that's fine.
Type 2 seeker by code. Now it's
You
been.
know what? You should have an application before you do anything.
Okay. So we'll wait for the application.
So we can just mention that next month.
Great. Okay, so moving on to the next agenda item.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry. Then the next item on the agenda today is the Algerville Firehouse. It's Planning Board 2020-02 lot line improvement. This is basically just transferring a small part of the right-of-way onto the same parcel as the firehouse. It's pretty straightforward. We actually already approved it, but it expired. And so now we're just, it's been resubmitted as an application. The only kind of questionable thing is we don't have a record of a fee having been paid on the lot line improvement application. And the question for you, Mary Lou, is they paid a fee when it was submitted, originally and approved. It's now been resubmitted. Can we waive the fee, or do we need to collect another fee?
You can't waive the fee, but the town board can waive the fee.
Sam, if I can speak to that, the town board, this is a town board application, and we
Right.
did not pay a fee the first time either.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No,
so
it
the
was
town-
waived by the town board because it's a town project.
Okay, and then Mary Lou, if the town, like, just order of operations wise, are we good on that? Or like, do we have, like, how does it
No,
work with the
you're-
town board waiving the fee? Or are we
you're-
just good?
We're good on that because it's really the same
Great.
application.
Great. I'm totally comfortable with that. I don't have any other questions myself. To any other members of the board, I can go around, but if you guys just don't mind speaking up on this one, because I don't anticipate questions.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine.
I'm good.
I'm good as well, Gloria.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to certify this lot line improvement. Do I have a second?
You do?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. The lot line improvement is approved.
Was the second by Grasso?
Yes.
It was
Okay, thank
neck and
you.
neck, Jones and Grasso there. Okay, the third application.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the board.
Yeah, thank you. The third application on our agenda tonight is Ross. It's a major subdivision, but it's really a lot line improvement. We looked at this the last meeting. we asked for a broader, a waiver that had a broader scope than the one that was submitted. A new waiver letter was sent in. So the first thing I was going to do is just ask the board if anyone had any objections to the new waiver letter, which is here. They're just asking for a waiver from all non-applicable codes. Again, this is the situation here is because it's part of a previous subdivision, the code enforcement office typed it as a major subdivision, but really all we're doing is deleting a lot line here and adding a new lot line. So I'm in favor of approving the new waiver. Do we need to vote on that, Mary Lou? I guess we
Yes,
probably
you
should.
do.
All right, so I move to approve this new waiver letter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
I'm going to call that as a Williams on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Planning board believes that you want to have
This is Patty Brooks,
clarity, then you can
and I
require that
apologize that I'm
it
actually
be
running two concurrent meetings, and I am on a New Paltz meeting at the same time right now.
Patty, I'm sorry, can we just finish the vote on this waiver? So I don't think there were any opposed.
We did see it. I did see it in an email, but it came through on a separate email.
So that carries. Patty, did you now want to share?
I agreed with Andy. You didn't see it?
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize because I'm running two planning board meetings at the same time, and I am currently presenting in New Paltz.
Okay.
I had a conversation with Mary Lou about keeping this public hearing open for a month due to some extenuating circumstances.
Are we at a place where we could
So
potentially
do
get?
you not, are you requesting that we, we're going to open the public hearing tonight because it was noticed. Are you requesting that we open it
I think so.
and then close it, but then keep it open for another month?
Yes, I would like to hear what the public comment is, but I believe that we're going to need to leave it open for a month.
Continue the public hearing. Sam, there's some things they have to resolve, so
So they don't want us to,
they don't want
Not
us
a
to
decision.
decide, because if they don't
Got it.
resolve these things within that time, they're not gonna be able to get it filed on time.
got it, I understand. Okay, well, so it sounds like we don't have any
I
questions. about-
don't, I'm sorry, I don't.
What's Ryan?
She's asking that we
I
not
don't.
close
So
the public hearing.
why
tonight.
does it want to extend? Why does it want to extend public hearing? And who is Patrick Brooks? I'm sorry.
Okay, Patty Brooks represents the applicant,
Okay.
okay? And
Mhm.
they're on for public hearing tonight, but
Right.
something is happening with the property that they have to get resolved to make sure everything's proper privately. Doesn't have to do
I
with
see.
us. So
Mary
we
Lou,
will
can we
open
just-
the
Okay.
public hearing tonight because it's noticed and there may be people who wish to speak. But at the applicant's request, rather than just closing it and making a decision tonight, they're asking that we continue the public hearing until next month so they can resolve their outside issues.
Mary Lou, I have a question on that. Can we just move on to the next application and have those people who attended tonight's public hearing?
No, because
Backward.
it's noticed, so we have to give people the opportunity
Yep.
to speak if they'd like to. If they want to just wait till next month, they
Right,
can.
because by the sounds of it, it sounds like there's some issues that are outside of our control. So for them to
Yes.
potentially speak today, maybe it could be resolved and they won't even need to speak. So that's what I was
Right,
getting.
totally up to those, anybody who's come on for the public hearing, whether they'd like to speak tonight or whether they'd like to reserve till the next meeting.
Right, because maybe their issue will be solved by then. I got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so with that, we do still need to open the public hearing, and before we can do that, we have to type it for seeker. So I am going to move that we type this as unlisted, uncoordinated. And I guess I need a second on that, and then we'll need a roll call vote. So do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, and then Acting Secretary Anowen, will you please do a roll call vote?
Yes. The motion was to do unlisted,
Unlisted, uncoordinated.
and it was Jones was the second.
Mhm.
So Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky.
Yes.
Okay. And then Lindstrom and Maloney are absent.
Okay, great. So now we have to go through this short EAF part 2. So will the proposed action create a material conflict with adopted land use planning or zoning? No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing neighborhood? No. Whoops. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. What is going on? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No. Will the proposed action cause an
Left button, Sam, left button.
I'm using like a single tap trackpad, but yeah. Cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No. Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? No. Or public or private wastewater treatment utilities? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, for example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. So that looks like a determination of no or small impact. I guess I will fill this out later. Do we need to then vote on this again, Mary Lou?
Absolutely. Yep, you have to
Okay,
have a
so-
motion to declare that there will be no significant effect on the environment.
Okay, so check this box if you determined that there will be no significant adverse environmental impact. So I move that we have that finding. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
That was Williams. And then Acting Secretary Anowen, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky.
Yes.
Okay. Great. I will print this right now so that I remember. Sorry, guys. Okay. Stop share. So now we're gonna go ahead and open the public comment. Do we have to vote to open the public comment, Mary Lou?
No.
Okay. So I'm gonna open the public comment. The rules for the public comment are that you're talking to the board, not.
And it's
to
actually the
the-
public hearing that you're.
Public hearing, excuse me. The public hearing, you're talking to the board, not the applicant. We're looking for any information pertinent to the application. And you have 7 minutes to talk. And if we go through everyone and then you want to talk again, you can have another 7 minutes. So is there anyone here for public hearing?
Sam, you should let them know how to unmute themselves. You might
Oh.
want to do what Supervisor Baden does
Sure.
for the phone
Go through the
numbers. He
numbers.
asks, he reads out the number and asks if that person would like to unmute themselves.
Okay.
But they could be
Yeah.
here for something else. Who knows?
No, I don't actually know how to tell people to unmute if they're on their phone. What is that, like
Star 6.
star 6? Okay, so the phone number ending in 7239, are you here for the public comment on this application? If so, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Okay, the phone number ending 6550. If you're here for the public comment, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, and then everyone else looks like they're here for another application and no one's unmuted themselves. So I'm going to make a motion that at the applicant's request, we hold this public hearing open until our next meeting, which is on July. Do I need to say what it is now?
Yes.
Oh,
July 12th, is that what it is?
yeah.
July 12th. Do I have a second? Do I have a second to hold the
Second.
public hearing open? That was Jones on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that's it for that application. Moving on to agenda item number 4, Planning Board 2020-0X. I don't know why there's an X. Lot line improvement and site plan amendment, or at whatever SPA stands for. So this is the Innis application to move the spa from one location to another location. We've got Nadine here to represent the applicant. Nadine, do you have, we got a letter from you dated 5/26, but I don't, it looks like it was hand delivered and the documents that were attached to that don't appear to have gotten scanned in to our system. Do you happen to have digital copies that you could show us?
Unfortunately, I am not logged into my computer at work. And I did email everything to Marin and I'm sorry, is it Alicia?
Alyssa, yeah, you know, I think there may have just been some snafus, just because we're
I can
like,
email them to you, Sam.
sure, and then I can put them up. Though I will say that I think the only thing we can really do at this point, because it hasn't been 30 days from when we circulated lead agency, is I think the only thing we can actually do today is schedule the public hearing for our July 12th meeting.
Which I think that, you know, is totally fine with us because everything has to be done after the public hearing anyway. We can't really get approval without it. And the information that we sent in was pretty minor. I know there were some changes to the lighting and, you know, a note on, you know, taking out the existing driveway. The only thing that was significant, which, you know, I don't think everybody needs to see, was actually getting the boundary survey for the lot line adjustment. So that was submitted. That is on record to have that. I was just curious. I know the Ulster County Planning Board did not hear this in June. It's scheduled for their July meeting. So luckily that will be before your July meeting. So hopefully we'll have those comments back. I did want to ask, do you know if the board got any feedback from SHPO?
So far, we have not gotten any responses to my knowledge.
Okay, you know, and I will just remind the board moving forward into, you know, the next meeting, just to keep in mind, I mean, this application or the original application, you know, full seeker was done, all the agencies were notified, everything was done. So this change to the site plan amendment is minor. The lot line adjustment is minor. So I don't really even expect to hear back from anybody. And the health department did already approve the septic for the new location of the spa. So just so everybody has that. And yeah, I mean, if we can schedule the public hearing for next month, that would be great.
I'll make a motion that we schedule public hearing for July 12th.
I second that.
That was Rick with the motion, Mr. Grasso with the second. Before we vote on that, did anyone have any other questions about this, or does that course of action seem appropriate to all the other board members?
Seemed fine to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Excellent. So that motion carries. We will schedule this application for a public hearing at our July 12th meeting. Hopefully we'll have heard back from Ulster County Planning Board and all the other, or not heard back from all the other interested agencies for seeker. And then we should be able to do seeker, do the public hearing, and hopefully be done with this.
Great.
So thanks.
Thank you
Nadine.
so much.
Yeah.
Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye.
Okay, so next on our agenda is Planning Board Application 2021-07. It's a minor subdivision and lot line improvement. It's located at Ridgeview Road in Cohasson. I'll go ahead and put up the map. So I think this is maybe the most detailed map, but I think this one's maybe a little easier to see. Basically, this is a 5-lot subdivision, but it's also a lot line improvement because there's the combination of 2 lots into 1 larger lot. There's a shared driveway to access lots 3, 4, and 5, and then lots 1 and 2 would be accessed directly off the road. At the last meeting, we requested some additional mapping, which is represented by this map and then also by this map. So we have the 2-foot topographical contours. There's a driveway grading here. And I think this is the erosion and sediment control stuff here. What there still kind of isn't is some of the stuff about standing driveway, standing water, threatened and endangered species. There's some concern about hydric soils. The DEC mapper pulls some of this as potential wetlands. So seems like based on the precedent we've had with some other similar applications, looking at some environmental analysis would be in order. And then also looking at total land disturbance. So I don't know what the rest, we should kind of go around and see what the board thinks. But before we do that, if Mr. Scully is here and wants to present any of this new information, now would be the time.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
This is Chris DeCero. I'm the engineer who put together some of those drawings.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. How are you? I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and just wanted to address a couple of those. I think I can address a few of them. So we did the the typical screening with the DEC resource mapper and the DEC EAF tool completion. So it generates a short form for us automatically, and we don't have any kind of hits coming up for endangered species. Wetlands, I don't see any mapped wetlands on the GIS system, Ulster County or DEC. And there is some drainage courses going through the property, but we are not proposing any development in any of those areas. So there's definitely not going to be an impact to any wet areas. So I think that, probably might address some of the concern in terms of at least the, threatened species, endangered species, that type of thing. But there isn't any flag for archaeological, historical, but pretty much anything. I think if you look at the summary sheet of the EAF, property is not coming up as flagged for really anything.
Okay, board members, why don't I go around and see what everyone has to say? Actually, I'll go back to the map here. Why don't we start with Mr. Jones?
I have quite a few comments and requests. I need to see the letter from the DEC indicating that there are no endangered species or rare endangered species, we need to see that letter that you got from them. The map, our subdivision code requires that even if they're not wetlands under the federal or state rules, you have to mark the map, and I don't see the map marked in any way where the wetlands are or where the water courses are. So all of that needs to be mapped onto this map. The other thing is looking at the contour lines. There's only a few places where houses can be placed. So this map needs to reflect where the houses are going to be, where the driveways are going to be to those houses, what kind of disturbance is going to occur as a result of those driveways going in. And we're going to need to have that confirmed by our consultant, the cuts and how much disturbance, all that's going to need to be done. I know that there was one project, Chair, that we actually had the applicant's engineer flag where the house was going to be, where the driveways were going to be because of the economic, rather the environmental impact of that particular project. And then the board went out and visited. So that's something I'd like to do. So there's quite a bit missing from this map. Not the least of which.
If I don't mean to interrupt, but if I could add to that just real quickly, that you might just be looking at the surveyor's initial map, but there's also some engineering drawings that depict a lot of what you're asking for.
Yeah.
And we haven't.
Do we have that, Chair?
That's right. What you're referring to?
Actually, it was the one that you had up, Sam. I think that one was pretty good. It had the house sites, the driveways in. Rick, I don't know if you saw that. It's not really as detailed, but it's just small on the front. But when you look at it, you'll see the squares where the house is, and it looks like the larger oval shaped squares are going to be where the septic areas are going to be. So it's pretty good. I don't see any. Well, I agree with you, Rick. Though it looks like we need to go walk it probably.
Well, that lot, and I'm having a hard time seeing it, but I think it's lot 5, the driveway that comes off lot 5. It's a very, very long driveway going through steep slopes.
Right.
Steep slopes.
Yeah, there aren't any. We have a whole road design. You know, there's a private road that serves the back 3 lots, and we have a road plan and profile, grading and everything, culverts shown, area disturbance shown. The entire project area disturbance is about 4 acres. And the private road going in there are not any real remarkable slopes. Everything is under 10%.
Okay, so what's missing then is wetlands, and you mentioned water courses. And then whatever you're going to do, all the engineering material that you're presenting, Chair, we need to have it reviewed by CPL. So I think at some point tonight, we're going to need to
yeah, we've got Liz on, and that's what I was hoping to do.
I'm on.
I thought it'd be good to just go through the board members, because Rick, I think a lot of the things you hit were exactly right. And then I don't know if anyone else had anything that they wanted to ask.
I have one more thing, Sam, is we have a shared driveway. So Mary Lou, we're going to need a shared driveway agreement for the lot 3, 4, and 5. Although lot 1 and 2 will have their own driveway, so we should be good on that. So the private road, I guess you're going to have a road maintenance agreement, I would assume.
Yes, yeah, they would need a road maintenance agreement for the private road. Yep.
Okay. Zorian, did you have anything?
Yeah, I agree with Rick, and I think some other environmental layers on DEC map I saw that not reflected. And also I have a question about the shaded area. It's not clear. What is that?
Yeah, I had that same question.
Yeah, it's a bit of a question for me. To be honest with you, the surveyor had put that on there, and it's a core habitat shading from the Ulster County GIS, and I don't know that there's really a definitive course of action as to what you do with those layers. I mean, it's definitely forested land and definitely habitat, but it doesn't come up on the DEC's environmental resource mapper or
Right.
in the EAF
Right.
completion tool as any kind of endangered species or, check zones for anything. So, I don't really know how to interpret that, to be honest.
Well, the way, yeah, I figured that was core habitat. So the way that this board has looked at core habitat is that we want to preserve as much of the contiguous core habitat lands within the town. So that actually brings up another point. Is this road, shared road, already there, or this is proposed? I'm a little bit confused on that.
So the road is predominantly following an existing woods road, and the idea behind that obviously is to minimize disturbance and tree cutting. So most of what you see in the back parcel, that all exists as a woods road, and it would probably need some minor trimming to widen a little bit and the base material for a road. Coming in from Ridgeview, that initial, where you're heading in toward the back, where the woods road is on the back parcel, that would be pretty much new.
So this is something I would want CPL to look at. That road, it's existing, but it's a woods road, so is cutting right through, and the houses are going to be built in the core of the core habitat area. And if that stub road or that shared road was to come off of Ridgeview into Lot 5 and then course across kind of the middle of this map where there's a lot of flat area, and that's where the houses and septic were to go, that would, and the wood road just gets abandoned, that would cut down on the impact on this environmental area by the presence of driveways. I think it would, but presence of driveways and the houses. So, I can't tell.
Well, I think
let me finish. Hang on, let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So I can't tell from the map itself, but as part of what CPL does, I'd like them to look at an alternative road. And you're right, it may cause even more disturbance, but an evaluation of whether a different and shorter road that goes through a much flatter area and stays to a large extent out of the core habitat. There you go. Thank you, Sam. Out of the core habitat area. That would be something I'd like to see.
So the reasoning behind the road alignment as you see it is because that is all land that is relatively high and dry. So if you put anything through the middle of the parcels, you're going to be going through a lower, wetter area where you're going to, definitely impact. It's going to be
so that's why we
greater sediment erosion impacts and potential habitat impacts. So
that's
why we're attempting to skirt the area that is potentially sensitive in terms of,
That's why it's important that those wet areas, those hydric soils and wetland areas should have been marked. And if they were, fine, but we need to see it marked on this map.
Did anyone else have? Go ahead, sir.
So you want the applicant to get a wetland biologist out there to do some flagging and basically pick that flagging up and have it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and sir, actually representing the applicant, I didn't catch your name at the beginning. Could you just repeat it for me?
Yeah, my name's Christopher DeCero. I'm the engineer that prepared some of the plans. I have done a road plan, like a basic sediment erosion control, and the overall, just kind of an overall proposed subdivision. We've completed Board of Health plans for the 5 individual lots and sent those to the Board of Health as well to start that process.
Okay, so do any other board members have any other questions? I think that we've got Liz on here, and Rick already mentioned wanting to refer this to CPL, but before we go there, did any other board members have anything they wanted to bring up?
I think Rick got what I was going for.
Great. Okay, so Liz, did you have a chance to review this? I heard you just say you didn't look at the part that's currently up on our screen, which has just a little, it's got more detailed, some grading on the driveway, and some sediment and erosion control mapping on a third page. I know there's like also a stone wall along Ridgeview Road that doesn't seem to be on any of the maps. And there's also a little bit of concern about driveway sight lines that I'd be interested in seeing. But Liz, did you have a thought on?
Yeah. We actually did get the sight lines approved by the highway department.
Okay, yeah, we'll still want, what we're wanting to do at this point is refer it to our consulting engineer, because all of us here on the board are lay people. So we like to have engineers review these more complicated applications, especially when they touch up on potentially critical environmental areas, or maybe that's not quite the right term, but like the gray area that's on this map, for example. So Liz.
Literally. So I mean, I've taken a quick look at this, and I started to look at the engineering map. Obviously, I'm going to have Greg Bolner, our PE, take a look at that if the board opts to, assign us this review. Just so I'm catching up here, I haven't looked at the existing tax parcel setup, but it looks like there are actually, if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot line to be removed in the middle of each of lots 1 through 5, which means you're starting with 10 lots and you're merging them.
No, there's no lot line.
The other way, Liz, it's horizontal.
There's a line like that.
We'd be done if there were already 10.
Yeah, it's two right now, Liz, along that blue line that I just drew on the screen roughly. And what they're wanting to do is combine the 2 lots into one, and then subdivide that one into 5 and do those 2 actions concurrently.
Understood. I guess one of my first, obviously we don't really have a lot of detail about the site. I mean, the contours that you did, I can see a lot that's going on here. I can see where you have kind of a interesting little low point there in the middle. Is that, if I'm looking at the map and I see where lot number 4 is labeled, is that sort of a low wet area there?
Yeah, the predominant drainage sort of follows that topography from, I don't have the documents in front of me, but sort of like from east to west, but kind of like in a southwestern, if you look at the topography, you can kind of see the low line there. And that's sort of the predominant drainage pattern for it. So we're around that, we're coming in off of Ridgeview on a relatively, some relatively high ground. And then we get up onto that woods road in the back, and that's all high and dry, and that's so right. The proposed development is basically all out of that area, and obviously the front lots are out of that area. So.
Yeah, and I think on some level I can appreciate the use of an existing wood road, but there are a lot of existing conditions. I think Rick and other board members were alluding to. Obviously, we would do a review and try to give an outline of what are some of the existing conditions we want to see. You've got contours, some of them are kind of close together, which leads me to believe there's a possibility of rock outcrops. So we may want you to sort of identify those areas. And I see that there's no bedrock outcropping.
No.
Okay, and shallow depth to rock? Maybe? No?
I would say when we did test pits out there, we were getting down about 3 feet or so on average.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've got a shared road coming in and serving 3 lots. Is there, and again, I understand Rick's concern about the Ulster County Habitat Corps, because initially when I looked at this, before I saw that that's what that gray area is, I thought, why didn't you continue the road to serve the last 2 lots? But so just putting aside for 2 seconds the Ulster County Habitat Corps area, what was the reasoning for not continuing? Because looks like there's some gentle grades up there, and that's why I'm asking. For lots
I'm not sure I follow the question. Why continuing the road for?
So
why?
I see that you're serving lots 3, 4, and 5
right.
on the road, the proposed road.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see that lots 1 and 2 have a separate driveway right off of Ridgeview Road.
Mm-hmm.
And so
right.
my first question mark again, not knowing about Ulster County Habitat Corps, is that in the end of lots 1 and 2 away from Ridgeview, there are some gentler grades there. So I was wondering why didn't you continue
We're trying
the road?
to minimize total disturbance. So total disturbance right now is about 4.1 acres, and it's actually a lot lower because a lot of the road exists. And as you go back to those further corners, further and further back, the disturbance creeps up. And we felt the project, it's really big if you get out there. It's 69 acres and change. So I think it's a lot bigger than is different on this paper. But that driveway is already 1,800 feet approximately. So if you were to go back to those far corners, you would quickly be going 2,300 feet, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just weighing that, this is just a kind of a question, only because those two driveways are, I see you've got a driveway on lot 1 that you're trying to follow existing grades. It's still on some steep land, and then, I can see you're kind of going across grades on lot 2. So that's really just a question mark. So I know we're going to want to see a wetland delineation. And let me know, where does the drainage go from? I'm trying to figure out, once you get in that low point, I'm looking at contour, I guess 1040, maybe 1020, sort of in the belly of lot 4. And I'm wondering, where does the runoff go now naturally?
Yeah, it just runs to the west. It kind of, again, I'm doing this in my mind, but it's basically, running in a westerly direction. So everything kind of drains to that other end. So that's also part of the reasoning for, kind of trying to stay out of those back areas, because that's, like Ryan said, that's going to lengthen the road, increase the disturbance, and you're just getting into, more relevant.
And then you're in the
habitat
Habitat Corps. Okay,
right,
I get
right.
it.
And to be clear, when you keep saying Habitat Corps, to be clear, on the short-term EAF, short-form EAF, which is supposed to be the standard for this, we show up as no for any endangered species, any other sensitive lands. So it's kind of, difficult to use that as a standard, and then when convenient, not use it as the standard. Like, we are not going into any endangered areas.
Yeah, but there's another standard that we use here called core habitat area and continuous core habitat area. There may be no endangered animals on this land, and again, I want to see the letter from the DEC, or we want to see the letter from the DEC, but the movement of any kind of wildlife is what the core habitat areas are all about, whether they're endangered or not. So I take what you say, obviously it's not DEC mandated, but we're looking way beyond that, and animals are traveling through there. And again, I mean, I'm sorry for the comment about the road, that's probably not going to work. You're right, and I would have known that had the wetlands or the wet areas been delineated on here. How long
But
is
there
that?
are no wetlands on here either.
They are there? I can't see them.
There are no wetlands on the property. Like, there are no wetlands mapped on any of the, whether you go on Ulster County Parcel Viewer, DEC, there just are no wetlands on this property.
Are there water courses? You mentioned there were water courses.
Yeah.
So
there are water courses. So what I want to avoid is getting into a lot of back and forth between the board member and the applicant at this point. I think what it sounds like the board would like to do is refer it to our consulting engineer to do a review of what's been submitted against our adopted code in the town. And then our consulting engineer can correspond directly.
We reviewed we reviewed the ordinances carefully. It's a very thought out plan. It accounts for disturbing the land as little as possible. Mm-hmm. It's an as of right subdivision. There's no variances requested. We're not asking for any discretion. To me, it feels like you're just trying to drag the process out time-wise, and none of this is going to yield anything that's really going to change what we do with the property.
The board needs to make
sure. I appreciate your perspective on that. Unfortunately, we have an established procedure here, and part of that procedure is that we refer applications of this type to our engineer. And then they can help the board determine whether or not this application meets the standards outlined in our town's adopted code.
So how are you categorizing and when you're saying of this type, how are you categorizing it to put it
So
in
this
this
is
bucket?
this is a 5-lot subdivision that is going onto lands that have steep slopes, that have areas that are coming up as critical environmental areas on the Ulster County.
No, it does not.
Not critical environmental.
Not critical environment.
It does not.
Core habitat.
Core habitat, excuse my language. Again,
Right.
also based on our previous precedents, when we have these shared driveways, steep slopes, core
The shared
habitat
driveways
lands.
in line with your ordinances. That was designed actually
Again, Mr.
specifically
Scully,
in line.
I'd like to reiterate that we on the board are amateurs at this, and you're talking about technical engineering documents and comparing them with standards that are outlined using technical language in our code. If I could trust every applicant to do their due diligence, our job would be easier, but we can't do that. I think you'd agree that that would not be a prudent way for a town planning board to conduct its business. And for that reason, we have the authority to refer this to our consulting engineer, which is what we're doing. And I believe if you look back through our history as a board, you'll see that we do that quite frequently, and there's nothing different being done here. So at this point, what I'd like to do is see what the consulting engineer would suggest as an escrow to perform an initial review of this application. Then the board can vote on whether or not we want to require that at this point. If we do require that, then we'll authorize your engineer to communicate directly with our engineer so that we can avoid extensive back and forth in our meetings. So Liz, do you have a suggested escrow?
Yeah, I mean, what I usually like to do is do an initial comprehensive review, get it out to the board, and then at the next available planning board meeting, the board would have an opportunity to have a discussion with the applicants. An even faster pace would be, we do a review, get it out to the board forwards it right to the applicant. The applicant does a submittal to try to address whatever comments there are. And then the board looks at the new submittal and has a discussion. And hopefully those steps, our review, some comments, the applicant responding to those comments, and then coming back to a meeting to discuss with the board would help progress the application.
Mm-hmm.
And so my recommendation to try to get through those steps would be $5,000, because then after the board's discussed them, maybe a subsequent submittal, and we're on to taking, action to set a hearing, circulate for lead, or something like that. So I'm trying to look down the road. And $5,000, I think, would get a good start and allow the application to go through a couple steps.
Okay, do any board members have any questions about that?
I would like to add that we were talking about visiting the site as well. It's significant size of the property. And like in the recent past, we visited the site. Let's schedule visiting the property as well.
So Zorian, you're suggesting that sort of at the same time as CPL is doing their review, that we try to have some scheduling with the applicant for them to maybe flag some parts on the property, like the proposed locations of dwellings and septic systems, and then also the driveways, and that happened at the same time.
And the center line of that
CPL?
road would be good.
The driveways are already flagged.
Okay, so,
and what
but
about
Zorian,
the center
what
line
Zor-
of the road?
Zorian, you're suggesting that we do that kind of at the same time as the CPL review?
Right, and to get visiting the site together with CPL, essentially very similar what we've done just recently with another application.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go out and walk that if it's flagged. So if anybody would like to.
And I'm sorry, who's requesting to walk it?
Planning
The
board.
member of the board.
So this is where you lose me a little bit. On one hand, you're saying, hey, we're not professionals, we're laymen, is what you said earlier. We do not have the ability to analyze the project. And then on the other hand, you're saying you want to walk it because it's your judgment. Like that part
Now,
is where I don't.
When CPL comes back and says, here are our findings, it's much easier to understand those findings if the board members have gone out, walked the property, and can put it all together. I'm the attorney, by the way. And that's typically done on projects. And when the application is submitted, permission is given in that submittal for planning board members to become familiar with the property.
Hi, this is Sean Wallach. I'm the attorney for Mr. Scully. I've been on the call. I've been listening to
Sean.
everyone's comments. How are you? I just was waiting for the right time to chime in. I was letting everyone say what they had. I just wanted to introduce myself and, let you know that we're just looking to cooperate with the board in any way. Whatever you need to do is fine. However, I'd like to get the project moving as fast as possible. I'd like to have a parallel track between the public hearing and everything that the board needs, because I've looked into everything, I've reviewed the codes, and I don't see that there are any issues. Everything could be flagged and reviewed, but it looks like most of it's going to be a non-issue, if not all of it.
Sure. Respectfully, we can't open a public hearing until we've completed seeker, and we can't complete seeker until we've reviewed the application and have information that's to our satisfaction that we feel we can accurately complete seeker. We understand that you're in a hurry, but unfortunately that's not something that is going to make us.
We're not in a hurry. We have a complete submission. It's not that we're in a hurry. It's just that it just feels like at this
we have
a complete submission.
At this point, what is happening is we have a board discussion and the floor is actually not open. So at this point, I'm going to actually just close the floor to the applicant as long as Mary Lou says that that's okay. And I'm going to let the board continue to have the conversation. And then after the board has decided on what we would like to do, we'll let the applicant respond again. Is that proper, Mary Lou?
That's fine.
Okay, so do any other board members have any comments regarding the suggestion from Liz at CPL?
I'll finish, Sam, as I started. Liz and Rick, if you guys are going to go out for CPL to take a look at it, if you want to keep us posted, the board members, maybe we could potentially view this as we've done on the past application that we are just about completed with.
And of course, you'd make that arrangement with the applicant as to a good time, so you're not just, picnicking or something.
Correct. Yeah, I won't bring a picnic basket, I promise.
Mr. Williams, do you have anything?
I'd like to check out the property. Waiting on CPL's recommendations as to what might need to be delineated and laid out.
Okay, and Rick, it sounded like you had something else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little confused by the applicant's response to our request. They think it's a completed application. I don't think we're saying that it is or it isn't. But we have our engineer who, as a matter of policy and practice, we're going to have them review it, and then we'll determine if there are any other changes that are necessary. And it's that simple. So I think at this point, Sam, do we need
yeah, I think we should vote
motion for the
escrow.
For the escrow? I'll make a motion that the applicant be requested to deliver escrow in the amount of $5,000 and as soon as possible, so that CPL can open up the discussion with their engineer.
Can I be heard on?
No, the floor's
the
not.
amount of the.
The floor's not open. That's a board decision. That's per our town code. We can set the escrow.
My apologies. Okay.
So I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so then at this point, what I think it sounds like the board wants to do is we just set the escrow. I'm in favor of authorizing CPL to kind of communicate directly with the applicant's engineers. I think that will be the fastest path forward. And then hopefully in the next week, we're going to have a new planning board secretary. So one of the first things we'll ask that new secretary to do is help us coordinate site visits to this site, since the planning board members are all requesting that. We'll schedule those with the applicant once there's there's flagging and the things in place. Do any board members have anything else they'd like to see on this before I just let the applicant say anything else they'd like to say?
I'd
just
like to
want
say one
to-
more thing, but I'm not a board member.
Okay.
Oh,
I
well,
just
you-
want to, I just want to emphasize for the applicant that it's fine that they review everything, but they have to give a right to the board to make sure that basically we're on the same page. So we cannot just rubber stamp the application. That applicant has to understand.
Yeah. Liz, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, just in terms of sequence, you know, obviously we're just gonna start looking at this and writing up a review. I like to, before I have a site visit, I would like to know a little bit more about the property, and also I find it very helpful to have whatever it is that we need added to this map on the map before a site visit. That's for me personally. If the board wants to go out sooner than that, that's fine. But I like to have more information to refer to before I go out. So I would want to wait until we did our review, had maps with some more information on them, and then schedule a site visit. And that's, you know, from my perspective. The other thing is, because I haven't done the review yet, I would like to suggest that if there is to be direct contact between applicant representatives with a planning board member on a conference call, that we at least start with a review memo from which to speak. So that's another thing. I would like to get the review memo done, get it out to the planning board, and then, you know, we could set up, you know, offline consultation then. Ideally, it would help to have a review memo and have them respond to it first, because then you'll have more information. So that's kind of the progression I'm thinking of, if that's all right with the board.
If I could restate, you're saying you'd like to complete your initial review, send that memo to the planning board, have the planning board forward that to the applicant, have them do a response. And then at that point is when it would be, you feel, the most productive for planning board members to visit the site. Is that correct?
That would be my recommendation. Yes, I think you stated it very clearly.
I'm comfortable with that. Does the rest of the board feel comfortable with that?
I'm fine with that.
That's fine, yeah.
Agree.
So I think on the board side, we're done. Did the applicant or your engineers or attorney have anything else you'd like to add before we move on to the next application?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it all feels very prejudicial. It feels like I'm, you know, being put through the ringer, candidly. But, you know, what is the review memo in terms of what do you want me to gather, and what's the timeline to gather that?
Yeah, so our engineer will review everything, what you described as a complete application. They're going to review everything that's been submitted. They're going to review that against our adopted code here in the town of Rochester. And then if there are any questions or corrections or changes that they're seeing based on inconsistency with our adopted code, they're going to send that back to you. If there's no questions or no issues, they're going to just say, this is a, you know, this application looks good. There's no suggestions or issues. So there's nothing you would need to submit until you've heard back from our engineer.
So your engineer is on the phone? Sorry, Sean. You can
Yes,
speak.
yes. She's her name is Liz. She works for a firm called CPL. They're the consulting engineer for the town of Rochester.
So
It's not
who's
an
on the phone
engineer,
now?
there is, yes, she's a woman who's been talking when I haven't been.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't introduce myself. My bad.
So,
And,
what's your timetable to complete the review memo?
Typically, we try to get something out to the board within 2 weeks of receipt of the submittal.
What's the submittals? What I've already sent.
Well,
So that
and
would be 2
the,
weeks from the escrow. It'd be 2 weeks from
I
when
mean,
the escrow has been paid.
Okay.
I mean,
so
I'll
the
send that to
escrow.
you, but-
Liz, hi, this is Sean Wallach. Mr. Scully's attorney. So whatever I need to send you, could we coordinate and I'll get that over to you and we can move along as, quickly as you can. We'll cooperate with whatever you need.
Yeah, so that'll go
Again,
through,
this is,
it'll go through the town.
Okay.
You'll get, I believe that what will happen, so unfortunately, we're currently without our planning and zoning secretary.
I did hear that. I heard about that.
The
Okay.
new secretary is coming on to staff this week, so we apologize on our end for any kind of communication and staffing slowdown. But we have someone who's covering that role, and you should be getting an email. Hopefully, I don't want to make any specific promise, but as quickly as we can, there will be information coming about how to fulfill the escrow that we've adopted. Is that right, Mary Lou?
I believe so. I believe Brianna used to send a letter out. But you know, it's $5,000 and it actually ends up going ultimately to the supervisor. So I don't think there's any reason they can't deliver $5,000 to town hall.
And can you explain to me how this is billed?
Yeah, Liz will bill the town for their time. You most definitely can have copies of those bills.
At what rates?
I don't know what Liz's rate is. So Liz?
well, I can look up an invoice from another project. Hang on just a second,
Yeah.
though. You'll have to wait a second.
You get charged exactly the same rates that the planning board would be charged. We, can't charge more to an applicant than would be charged to the planning board.
Hang on, I'm looking at the.
I mean, you should know how much you charge.
Chair, I recommend that we let the applicant and Liz take this off.
So would you like to know what those rates are now?
This isn't the
pull
place.
Yeah, it all feels kind of flim-flam to me.
Well,
Chair, I agree. I think we need to take this offline and move on.
And you know what? I need to make a comment. Comments like flim-flam and prejudicial is setting up an incorrect and inappropriate relationship with the board. So I think the applicant may want to, and their attorneys may want to chat about how they approach the board. We're going to do what we're going to do according to our past practices and the code in the town. It's not prejudicial. It's not a flim-flam. That's it, period. This is the town of Rochester. I don't know where you guys come from, great wherever you do, but we're going to do things in accordance with the way in which we do them. And the debate is whether or not it's
Rick, I own property on your street.
The debate. Do you really? Well, then we can have a discussion. You can come over for coffee and have a debate.
I'd like to move on. I believe the board has taken all the actions that we're prepared to take at this time on this application. As long as there's nothing that I don't know that would prevent me from doing that, Mary Lou, I'd like to just move on to the next application.
No, I don't have any problem with them knowing the rates are going to be charged.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think that's fair. And I will say,
it's just ethics.
Well, we're trying to give you those rates. If for any reason you needed legal to get involved and review things, I charge the town at the rate of $175 an hour, which is well below what I charge private clients. Liz, can you let them know what would be charged for a planner's time and what would be charged for an engineer's time for CPL? Thank you.
Absolutely. So we just did a project. We've been working on a project, QSAC, and I'm looking at an invoice, and my hourly rate is $124.80. And Gregory Bolner is the PE, and his billing rate is $195. Just so the board knows, if they haven't seen invoices, typically what happens is I do most of the code review, and then I pinpoint for Greg what items he needs to look at.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the applicant is aware if it turns out things go really well and Liz looks at this and says we're in pretty good shape, or there's only a few things to do, and it turns out the billing is less than the $5,000, you get a refund. We're not keeping your $5,000 if it costs $3,000 or $2,000 or $4,999.99. We'll give you your penny. Okay,
Very good.
so I don't want, And, you know, on the other hand, if it turns out, wow, there's a lot that has to be done and it goes more, we'll ask you to increase the escrow. I don't foresee that happening, but just be aware that you will be billed, you know, exactly what it costs for the professionals to review. And if it's not the 5,000, you most definitely get a refund of your money.
And we typically do a pretty comprehensive review right up front to try to put on the table whatever it is we believe the planning board needs, so that you should have a good list. And responsiveness probably will help keep costs down.
So whatever information you need, we'll forward it to you, okay?
Thank you.
Well, I will write
Through the
to
town.
the board, and the board will forward to you. Yeah.
So
Of
what
course.
do you foresee? So I get you this payment, you know, today. You're going to take about 2 weeks to do this. We're on track to be done with this about when in your mind?
I can't predict that.
It depends what she finds, I would think.
Yeah.
What would be a normal time frame?
It really depends on responsiveness. I'm not sure. Are you asking us to give you a timeline?
Yeah, responsiveness from who, I guess is what I'm saying.
From the applicant's representatives.
Yeah, I mean,
Sometimes
we're
it takes a
here.
few weeks. Okay.
I think what we're getting at is there's a lot of variables. Like one is what types of issues come up or don't come up. If there's no issues, then we might be good to schedule public comment at the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a carefully designed thing. We did it in short form EAF where it came back clean as a whistle.
There's
we have nothing to hide.
If there's a lot of issues that come up, then then those would need to be responded to. The board would need to look at them, and it could be longer. We don't want to make a guarantee, because the reason we're sending this to our engineer is because we want to have a third party look at it. So, I can't give you a timeline because there's too many unknowns.
Okay, and you mentioned board members wanting to walk it. So which board members would want to walk it?
It would likely be all of us, because we cannot have a quorum while we're out visiting a site. There would probably have to be at least 2 visits. So at this point, I'm going to move on to the next.
Can we schedule those for sooner than later, so we're not holding up as a result of the board members' individual?
Well,
schedule?
what we just discussed, and I believe you heard, was the engineer is making a recommendation that she do her initial review, and then your team has an opportunity to respond, so that when we do visit the site, we have a greater level of information. So that is probably going to be, after our next meeting, because we won't have anything to look at before then, because she's saying 2 weeks, and then you'll need a chance to respond.
After the next meeting, you want to schedule your visit and the public hearing simultaneously?
Well, we could. I don't know.
Where we are.
I can't say
We
when
don't
we're going
know
to
that
schedule
yet.
the public hearing. We can't schedule the public hearing until we feel that we're ready to. The
Right, now-
soonest,
That's right.
the
Right, and
soonest
it's possible.
it's possible, but I don't want to tell you when that's going to happen. I'm saying that we're waiting to schedule a site visit until we have information back from the engineer. And we're also waiting to schedule the public hearing until we have information back from the engineer. We obviously do not know what that information is going to be. So that's why I can't answer your question any more clearly. So now I'm going to move on.
Like, what benefit do you have from further delaying it? Like, why don't we?
We don't have, again, I'm trying to move on. We do not have a benefit from expediting or delaying. Our only motivation here is to do a good job and to apply our code as fairly as we can. And that's the only thing we're trying to do. We're not trying to go fast or slow. So again, I'm now going to move on. And the next application on our docket is.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, planning board members.
2021. Thank you, Liz. It's this is a pre-application for Rock Mountain Farms, Howard Osterhout, owner and applicant. It's a minor subdivision. I'm going to try to do a screen share here. So we don't have a ton yet in this file. Basically what we have is the code enforcement office referral from the zoning permit application saying that it's in both the R2 and the R1 zoning district. It's a 6.6 acre vacant parcel with a proposed subdivision into a lot 1 of approximately 1 acre and lot 2 into 5.6 acres. And then we just have the zoning permit. And then I have it up here. Oops, sorry. Again, I'm not as. And then this is the parcel on the Ulster County parcel viewer right here, the 68.4-6-1.117. Is there anyone here from the applicant who'd be able to tell us a little more about what you're trying to do here?
You're on mute, John.
There we go. How's that?
Good.
Okay. So I was caught by surprise about this meeting, but what they are doing is there was a 1 acre lot surveyed off in 2008. And according to Howard, the owner, it never went through. So they're just trying to reestablish that. They have septic approval already that was done recently. And that's it. I guess the only issue is the zoning.
Great. So I know I have a few things to bring up on this. The other board members, why don't we just go through quickly? Zorian, do you have any questions? It's just a pre-app, so we know there's a missing, but
not really. Just that letter doesn't tell me much.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, there isn't much to work off of on this. If this is a zoning issue, then doesn't that have to be clarified first?
Yeah, that's certainly one of the questions, is where exactly the zoning boundary is one of the questions for sure. Mr. Grosso?
Yeah, so John, are they piecing off the backside on the Kathy Joe Place side where that square is going to be? Is that their goal?
Correct.
Okay, and then the water district access will still happen off of Roberts Drive?
Yes, yeah, that's separate.
Okay, and then this.
Yeah, that doesn't actually go through the property there. That GIS is off a little.
Okay, so, but it's not going to access off the Kathy, we're not going to hinder that access off the Kathy Joe Place side, I guess is my question.
No.
Okay. I assume future housing is the long-term goal there?
Yeah, I think a house, 2 lots.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have questions for.
Mr. Jones, do you have anything?
Yeah, I really have nothing with this map. Not, as you said, nothing to work with. I can't tell where the lot line is, can't tell where the driveways are going to be. I guess the 1 acre lot is going to empty onto Kathy Joe. I'm not sure. I'm not clear where the other lot's going to empty out onto. So
They'll both be accessed from Kathy Joe.
Both, yeah. So a whole host of questions that would suggest that there's going to be a shared driveway, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think, like, again, there's just a pre-app, but from, probably from what you could hear the board saying, we're going to need obviously a map that's showing, first where the parcel division is going to be, also where exactly the zoning division is, but, because the zoning line goes through the parcel, so that's going to be a question. Because of the subdivision, we're going to need topo, driveway locations, proposed dwelling locations, and septic locations.
Yeah.
And then another kind of question is whether this is part of an old subdivision or whether this is just totally a new subdivision. So like whether it's a re-subdivision of lands that happened, when Kathy Joe Place and Roberts and Little Sam Road and all of those went in, or whether this lot was unaffected by that. So that's just going to be a question. What else? Then there's going to be a lot, any of the, if there's any habitat core lands, I didn't turn all that on this map, but kind of all of the things that are in our minor subdivision code, we're just going to have to look at and see on the maps.
Yeah, I guess I'm finding out you're having administrative problems, but I was totally surprised it was on a meeting tonight.
Yes. Well, and it's a pre-app, so it's no,
Okay.
it's just, the whole point is so that you kind of know what we're gonna be looking for, so that
Yeah.
you can have it. Because there's not actually a planning board application in yet also, which is.
Yeah, I didn't think there was.
Yeah.
And, we try to move things along rather than delay them. So we have a
I heard
pre-app.
that.
You think? You think?
I do.
And then, I think on our description, I'm not sure where this came from, but it says it, or we may have just kind of assumed this, that one of the lots would access off Roberts. So just whenever the maps are submitted, just like how the two are going to access, if it's a shared
Yeah.
drive, all that stuff. So it sounds like really we just need you to put all that stuff together and then submit it with the application, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, okay. I have one question.
Mhm.
As we get into the zoning, if it does fall out of that 2 acre into the, or out of the 1 acre into the 2 acre, would it be possible to get a zoning variance to create that lot?
You would need to go to the
Yeah.
ZBA for a variance,
Yeah,
yes.
but is that something out of the question, or is it?
I think, yeah, it would have to go, if it does need a variance, that wouldn't be in this board.
No, I understand that.
And I can't speak to what they would want to
Okay.
do. I mean, I imagine if it's just a little tiny corner, it's kind of weird that the zoning line goes through the parcel, so.
Yeah.
It's actually
I
any
can't speak to
zoning application change goes to the town board, so you'll submit that application to them. There's a.
That would be a zoning change, but it could be a
It would be a
variance.
variance if it
Could be
turns
either
out
of those
that
two.
that they have
So
things that
now,
aren't quite
would I
large
do that
enough.
simultaneously? The zoning variance and the subdivision, or?
I think it could be simultaneous. I think
Okay.
we've done that before with variances, where if it gets to the point where we're ready to make a decision, but kind of that decision is contingent on the granting of a variance, we could just write that into the decision. Is that right, Mary Lou? I believe you've
Usually
done
what
it
we
too.
do is we wait to see if there's a variance, because otherwise you have a map out there, and then what if they don't grant a variance?
Got it. Okay. Well, I stand corrected on that.
Okay.
But they could be happening concurrently. We would just
Yes.
want to wait for them to be done, the ZBA to be done before we were done.
Okay, very good.
All right. Well, I think that's it for that. If you don't have any more questions, Mr. Post. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So stop share. Now, the next application is, I'm sorry in advance for my pronunciations, but Wahal Bhattacharya is the owner applicant. It's a special use permit and site plan approval. Let me pull up the file. So this one is also a pre-app. We don't have a planning board application yet. What we have is a code enforcement referral, which is this cover letter, and then we have the zoning permit application to the code enforcement office, and then we have a PowerPoint which was scanned in sideways on our document. So it looks like there's quite a few things that you guys are interested in doing, so we'd love to hear from you. I think it might work out for you guys that not all of this requires permits from us. So what we might want to do is kind of schedule a meeting with I'm the acting chair today, but with our chair person and with you two to figure out exactly what you'll need to apply for and what not. But if you just want to take a minute and talk to us, I can try to scroll through the slides. We'd be happy to hear what you guys are thinking about.
Well, I'm Ritika, and this is of course Kostub. First of all, hi everyone. So we are local residents, and we like the area. Obviously, our son goes to school here. We adopted a puppy. And so ideas. So we're down there, Hudson. But we have some ideas that we hope, the community and the town, we can all work together to come to something that would be hopefully a positive step forward.
I'm Kostub, and I'm sorry I'm blurring out. Camera likes her more. We've been here about 6 years, and thanks a lot for actually taking the time. and allowing us to be here. We have been recently full-time for about 2.5 years now. And our son, as Pratika mentioned, goes to a school in Stone Ridge. And we have loved living here and we want to continue living here. So we wanted to do a few things that will allow us to share our land as well with other people and hopefully contribute something meaningful to the community. And the way we thought we could do it is, first we thought we should do a small farm where we can grow things, and if people like food, they can take it from a table outside and
Donate.
honor system. At the same time, we also realized that there might be people who like to visit and would like to see how it is, but only on a short time basis. And we did not want to make it something of a stressful business for us. So we saw that there is a possibility to do 12 events, and we wanted to request that and actually work with you, because we have never done this, and seek guidance and understand what should we be thinking about. We have options in the presentation. We can walk you through the presentation. I'm not sure it'll be the best time for use of time for everybody, but what we tried to achieve is be able to provide an illustrative plan of what we hope to achieve. So we want to do an agritourism business, potentially allowing us to host certain events, very specific events, hopefully, that do not destroy our community, the way we live, and doesn't destruct the peace for our neighbors and us, because we live on one of the parcels.
And our neighbors, Bruce and Werner, have helped me so much over the many years that we've been here, and I definitely do not want them to be, unhappy.
No, we have been lucky. Everybody has been
yes,
very
we love it.
accepting of us.
Kind.
People have been very kind, and we want to actually provide the same environment for people who live here if we can. So we hope to
Not be
exclusive. We want to be inclusive.
exactly, and we don't want to be. I guess we want to sort of seamlessly blend in what we're
Right.
thinking.
We don't want to build and we don't want to develop. We don't have any plans to build any buildings immediately. We have plenty of
Structures.
inventory of structures, if you may, that existed that we would like to leverage and utilize. And over time, we have maintained them and kept them in a shape that they're safe. And we would like to see if we could have a small agritourism business which allows up to 12 events. And we can specify what we are thinking in our mind. But at the same time, hopefully, if we are successful in doing what we hope to achieve in the agriculture side, be able to have perhaps certain individuals learn that, be here, help us, and we can teach them something they can grow, not just eat one day, hopefully, they can eat for life. And we would also like to see if somebody likes to be married here. Somebody would want to have an event for their small company that they started. And Ritika actually wanted to have events for people and entities who may not be able to get an event readily in other places. And she can describe more.
Well, no, I think one of the things that I always found about just any kind of events, whether it's like for dinners or for whatever, it usually tends to be quite expensive or beyond the reach. We're trying to figure out how to seamlessly blend obviously the option of having a paid event, but we both would love to support people who don't have access to a lot of different things, whether it's the events part of it, be able to host them and or have like some sort of educational exchange. And the reason I say that also about the educational part of it, exchange for the non-revenue events was my parents are both my father is an agriculturist, that's his PhD. My mother is a horticulturist, and they have a lot of expertise in that field. So one of them is retired completely. My dad is almost there.
And they're very well connected. They have excellent resources in the region. And we've been talking about this, that we have land, what should we do? But not to digress, but more to convey certain points. We don't want to build unnecessarily. We don't want to. We'd rather utilize the land for agricultural purposes and for perhaps employing some technology, in fact, and doing some research if we could. But also for events, we don't want to simply hand the land to somebody and say, you go find events and do it. We want to actually be involved. We want to understand who really needs to do something, who can afford it and who cannot afford it.
And
And if they
curate.
cannot afford it, we would like to have a non-paid event, but hopefully we can do it outside of the 12 such that we can balance our
Exactly.
budgets as well.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much. That's a really great overview. I think that the biggest thing I'm hearing that would require us to do our review is around the events, having a special events permit. So for that, the first place to start for you guys is going to be to look at our code in our Town of Rochester zoning code. It's chapter 140, and you'll want to look at the requirements of 17, 20, and 35, which are the parking standards, the bulk development standards, and the event standards. And then I do think it probably would be helpful to try to schedule a meeting, because a lot of the stuff, like having a farm, having animals, even selling farm goods, a lot of that stuff probably just going to be allowed by right because of the size of your parcel. You have the 2-acre zoning, but then you've got 41 acres, so you can do like 20 different uses by right without us having to get too involved. Again, that's stuff all, I'm not the one who makes that decision right here and right now, but, I think going through this with our regular chair, Marin, you'll be able to kind of prune this down to exactly what you'll need to put on the planning board application, which from what you're saying, it sounds like the biggest thing is going to be the special events permit.
Sure.
Which is going to have a specific set of requirements. And then if you're a farm, there's some stuff, where if it's a farm event, it doesn't count as a special event. If it's,
Oh, great.
if it's like a harvest festival type of thing. But again, those determinations come sort of from the code enforcement office, not from me right here. Mary Lou, is there something you were wanting to jump in and say? You looked.
Yes, did I have the jump in and say
You did
expression
have
on my
that
face?
face, yeah.
I've moved forward, right? Yeah, I think this would probably be a very good situation to have Marin, Jerry Davis, our code enforcement officer, you folks and myself meet to just go through item by item, because there's lots of different things and each thing kind of has a different path to get you where you want to be.
We would love that. Jerry has been extremely helpful, and I know Mike was here earlier. Mike Baden has been extremely kind with his time too, but there was nothing set, and we wanted to understand, with everybody's blessings, if you may, how should we proceed? And again, we haven't done it, so we would love to speak with
As many people as
yeah,
possible.
we can use help.
All the expertise that obviously is on the board. And Sam, are you possibly a farmer?
Yeah, my wife Erin and I run a vegetable farm, and Patrick also has a horse farm. So we've got agriculture all represented on our board here.
No, that'd be great.
That
We
would
would
be
love
great,
to
actually.
work with Marin, you, Mary Lou, you as well, and Jerry, and anybody who would like to help. We are open.
Well, what we can do is find out what you want to do and lead you down the right path to get there.
Please.
And we can't advise you.
Right.
That's not the board's role. But we can lead you down the path, and then hopefully we'll get there.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that. And thank you for the time. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And what I'll do is I'll pass along to Marin that you guys would like to set up a meeting, and either that'll go through our secretary when we have one again, or Marin will reach out to you directly. But I think that's probably the best next step, is to just figure out exactly what you guys should be submitting on the application, so that the process with our board can go as smoothly as possible.
Perfect. And should we be, sorry, go ahead.
And so, Marin's away this week. I'm not sure how long, but I'm away next week.
Okay.
So if Jerry's not away the week after, we may be looking at the last week in June or first week in July.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. That gives
Eric,
us.
could I make a quick comment?
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think it's what you're talking about sounds really great, interesting. From my perspective, having been a banker and dabbling in horticulture from time to time, you want to figure out what you are best at doing. So if you're an idea person, that's great. If you have expertise in the things that you're talking about, that's great too. But it sounds like you got a lot of ideas and you want to gather around you other people in the community that may have specific skills around some of your ideas who can help you to implement it. Because I think Sam put it well, and being a farmer, a lot of responsibilities, but that almost seems to be the easiest thing to do with a property this size. Getting into the event business is a whole different ball of wax, as you'll see.
No, you're right.
So, concentrate on what you think you know best and find people to help you with the stuff that you have no experience in. And there are certainly, people who are doing it already in the town. And I've found so many of the farmers and the event runners willing to share their ideas with other people looking to do the same kind of business, because we are a community. So that's about all I could add to what's already
thank you, Rick. We would love to meet you and everybody
many
else as well,
people.
as many people, because we want to do it in a balanced way. We do not know everything, and as you suggested, we should focus on the things we are good at, so our core competencies. However, we are willing to learn, and we are willing to bring in the right individuals who can help us execute it right and correctly and sustainably. So go ahead.
Exactly. I think the main thing is, I grew up in a small town in Alabama. So obviously it's a very small circle of people that you usually, are with. And so that's one of the biggest concerns. Obviously, I know that is one of the biggest concerns through all the towns in Hudson Valley, because it's become so popular from people upstate. And I know there's a lot of, I guess, give and take.
Angst?
I'm not going to say angst, but there's a certain ebb and flow. And certainly we don't want to be part of any of that causes anyone to be upset and in a way or cause issues. So that's why I think we would like to have a partnership hand in hand so that we can sort of proceed forward. And I just want to just circle back, Rick. So I have two kind of diverging degrees. My first degree, I worked for a public utility company. I was a programmer. So I did COBOL programming, Visual C++, all of those things. And then I was really more interested in designs. And so that was my other passion. So I went to design school as well. So those are sort of like my two areas, I guess, of work and expertise right there. And of course, fortunately for me, my parents are experts at horticulture. So certainly, Samuel, if you want to pick my mom's brain when she's here, I will let you know.
Since you have, yeah, please.
No, I was just going to say, I think we've kind of covered what we need to cover with you guys today. If you have one more thing to add, that's fine too, though.
No, we would love to meet whenever anybody is willing and available. We live here, so we are available as well. And I'd like to reach out to everybody here. And yes, we're vaccinated.
And we'll put a mask on.
But
well, thank you guys so much, and hopefully our next meeting will be in person. We'll see what happens.
We'd love that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you,
time.
guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Good
Good night. Take care.
Okay, so our next application is another pre-app. I hope there's someone from the applicant on here. This is Montalvo and Visconti. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. What this is, thankfully, Maren kind of explained it to me. But basically, what we have is there's several lots, and through a series of where's the, maybe I don't have it. Through a series of basically lot line movements, they want to reconfigure the lots so that it ends up looking like this. So we're starting and we're ending with the same number of lots, and they're more or less all staying contiguous to what they were before. The code enforcement office classified this as a minor subdivision. So if there's someone from the applicant on, I think kind of our first question is whether this is really a subdivision or whether it's a 6-part lot line adjustment that's a logic puzzle, whether this is sort of an old subdivision and that's why it's classified as a subdivision. Again, unfortunately, because our staffing on our end is a little bit less than normal, we don't actually have the answer ourselves about whether this is an old subdivision.
This was a Randy Hornbeck subdivision at one time.
About pre-code?
That's a
Hello,
Terry
is that
question.
Terry? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
All right, great. I'm listening tonight, and thank you guys for keeping me awake while I'm driving. I believe the classification from Jerry's office was that this is a major subdivision because it was a subdivision that was done for the Montalvos back around 2002.
Yeah, major.
When we created the original lots. The intention now is to increase the land holdings of John and Terry Visconti from being quarter-acre lots to being 3.1-acre lots with additional lands that Montalvo's own behind their existing lots. And then giving an additional 1.1 acres to Bobby Montalvo, who is family member to Gina and Muriel. And then changing the location of an existing lot that we did back in 2002 to a more suitable location that's not next to the mother's and daughter's house. And in the beginning, the lots were so close because of the family membership. But now that the daughter Gina is taking the caretaker for the mother, they'd like to move that lot in case they need to sell it at some point so it's not sitting in their front yard.
Okay.
So technically it's a bunch of lot line revisions that we're trying to do, but the classification says that it's a major subdivision, which we have submitted a waiver for to ask to treat this as lot line revision / re-subdivision for the one lot.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Terry, is there anyone else on the road other than the people who are part of this application?
That's what I was going to ask.
Well, there's one other landowner, but there's already a filed road maintenance agreement that was done in 2002. That there's a copy. I provided a copy of that in with the application package. So the deed for that's there. So there would be no change to the number of lots that are on the current road maintenance agreement, and there'd be no change in ownership as well.
So Mary Lou, if it's a major subdivision, which is what Jerry's classified it as, we would need to get the other members of that road maintenance agreement to be parties to this application. Is that
Either to be parties or to give us letters of saying that they consent.
Okay. And because it's a re-subdivision, it's automatically a major subdivision, and the waiver, we still are treating it, we have to go through the major subdivision.
Yes. Yep.
So there's, right, so the whole, the potential of like treating this as 6 concurrent lot line adjustment, it doesn't actually work because it's a major subdivision by code. Okay. All right, so it sounds like, Terry, what we need is all the waiver. You said you already submitted it. I don't have it in our file. And maybe you've also already submitted the planning board major subdivision application. Again, I don't have that. It doesn't mean you didn't submit it.
Everything was submitted in the package to the board.
Okay.
Everything was there.
We just don't have it because of our staffing on our end. Okay, and then we'll need, I guess we're probably still going to need well, I guess I don't have your waiver letter yet. So maybe we just kind of need to.
So here's a problem that I'm having, okay? We submitted this back in April to zoning, and it never made it to the planning board. We submitted this 2 weeks prior to get it to planning board with the application, with the waivers, with all the letters of permission for me to represent, with all the information for this project. And now we're at a pre-application meeting.
Yeah,
I'm delayed 2 months on this. I'm delayed 2 months on this project now, and this is becoming a problem. Okay, everything has been submitted weeks and months ahead of time. So I need to know why you don't have a full application in front of you, and why we're not proceeding with this and moving this forward to public hearing this month. We were all ready. Everything's been submitted.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have that answer. What I have is a CEO referral dated June 1st. And, again, we don't have currently have the office is short staffed because we don't have the secretary. So I also don't know the answer to why I don't have that.
Right, and Supervisor Baden and I have had numerous discussions on this project because of the delay in this. I received a very unprofessional phone call from the zoning secretary because I had my client take a picture of the application being dropped off. Okay, and now you're telling me you don't have the application in front of you?
I mean, that's what I'm telling you, and that's, unfortunately, that's the only answer I can give you. I don't have any further insight myself, and as far as I know, Chair Lindstrom, who's not here tonight, doesn't know anything additional beyond that either. I hear that that's very frustrating, and it sounds frustrating to me too, but unfortunately, I don't know what the story is, so I can't explain it or change it at this point in time.
So there's absolutely no way that we can classify this as lot line revisions and get this done next month, that we're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to come back next month at square one?
We can't classify it as a lot line division because under our code, if it's a re-subdivision of lands, it's automatically considered a subdivision. And
Right, and we've submitted the waiver, but you don't have the waiver.
But we don't have it. I know that this board has been very inclined to grant waivers in that context, so I don't anticipate there being any issue with granting that waiver. But unfortunately, I haven't read it, so I don't, we can't speak to that without having seen it. I don't know if Mary Lou has any further insight on this situation.
Yeah, I mean, all I can do is we can ask if you dropped it off, I can call and see if they have it. We have a secretary starting this week.
Yeah.
So, maybe she'll be handed a lot of files. I don't know.
This is 3 months now that I'm delayed on this project because of the mishandling by the town. Who's going to explain this to my clients now? That again, we submitted in April, and I have yet to get in front of the board now and make any progress with this.
Terry,
with my
excuse me, Terry, when in April did you submit it? Was it the end of April?
April 19th to Jerry's office. They sent my zoning application until the next day.
Okay,
so I wasn't qualified for the planning board meeting. Then
my question is, when did you submit to the planning board?
The planning board was submitted 2 weeks ago, and I have a picture of it with Courtney holding it in her hand.
I'm not doubting you, Terry. I'm just trying to figure out the timeline. So you submitted to Jerry for your zoning permit back in April. You did get that.
We have that.
That we have. You got that zoning permit. And then
which
2 weeks
until June 1st.
So it took 6 weeks until we got the CEO letter.
Repeat that, Terry.
They didn't. I put it over April. It didn't get until June 1st.
Right. You submitted the zoning permits on April 18th, and you didn't get a response from the code enforcement until June 1st. That matches the records that we have.
Okay.
But then what we don't have is anything that happened after that letter from code enforcement. Anything that was submitted after June 1st is not in our file at this point.
So they did not. So the applications that we filled out, the EAF, the waivers, the letters of permission for me to represent clients, all the deeds, none of that you have.
We don't have it in our Google folder, and I suspect that that's an issue with our not currently having a secretary in the planning board office.
And this is after Mike Baden assured me that we would be heard at this meeting and that we would be moving forward. Guaranteed me this.
Well, again, I can't.
Terry, what we do is a pre-application meeting anyway. So here we are at our pre-application meeting.
But it shouldn't have been a pre-application because the application was submitted.
Okay, I don't know that we're gonna, Terry, I hear your frustration. I think if I was in your situation, I would also feel frustrated. Unfortunately, I don't think that anything productive.
Now I got customers and explain why this happened. The only thing I can say is it's the complete incompetence of the town. Okay, and they're getting tired of hearing this. And
Well,
I can't represent my client if I can't get something to the board.
You know,
So
I
Chair, why don't
can't-
we just talk
yeah.
about what the next steps are gonna
That's
be?
what I was gonna say. I don't know that anything productive is gonna come from talking about it more. I think the next.
It's not, and I apologize for my frustration. It's just that this has been 3 applications now that I've had the same problem with. And I just can't represent clients anymore in the town of Rochester because I can't get anything done there. I can't get paperwork done. We can't move anything forward.
So the next.
So we're
step
trying to
is-
move it, we're
Yes,
trying to move
this-
it forward. So if you could let the chair, I understand your frustration, let the chair describe the next steps. Maybe we have a course forward. How's that,
Yeah,
sir?
it sounds like a lot of the stuff has, it sounds like a lot of the stuff has been submitted already. And I think what needs to happen is if there's anything else, Terry, that you can think of submitting, you know, make sure you get it in so that we have it on the agenda. Again, I understand that you've already submitted a lot of stuff.
I have nothing to submit.
This will be on the agenda for our next meeting. And at that point, I fully expect that we'll have the complete submission that you've already put in and we can look at it at that point. I think that's what we can do at this point.
Sure, I do have 1 or 2
Oh, go ahead.
questions for Mary Lou.
Yeah.
So Mary Lou, is this a major subdivision?
Yes, under our code it is.
Okay. And the second, okay, and so presumably, since it's a major subdivision, the map needs to reflect the positioning of all the other things we've said to all the other applicants, the position of the homes on these different lots, the driveways.
They can request a waiver from those.
And Terry says he has put in a waiver request. So just like with other major subdivisions that are really lot line adjustments, we can grant that waiver once we see it. And we'll try and track that down right away.
So you're saying, Mary Lou, that this is a major subdivision. That's how it's been categorized, but it's really just lot line changes?
Yes, that's what it
Yeah.
looks like.
Similar to, we've seen this with a few other applications recently where they're like with the Ross one we had earlier, but we extended the.
Had it with Schoonmaker, we had it with a whole bunch of them.
It's a major because it's been subdivided before, but really this is just a glorified 6-lot lot line.
Lot line improvement, yeah. So I think it should.
I have a question to Mary Lou.
Go ahead, Zorian.
I notice it's a pretty complex puzzle, but one property there sounds to me they need to take care of changing ownership before it becomes part of the larger lot. I think it's lot 2, because different people own current lot versus the lot that are attached to. Basically, I'm wondering about the process. I'm not trying to criticize
Well,
anything.
yeah, and they can't transfer deeds or do new deeds until there's a subdivision granted, until we change these lot lines. We had spoken earlier, and I don't know, I think that probably Terry got this in as well, that all those owners have to consent to this.
All the ones.
Right,
on
every
the property.
landowner's name is on the map. They've
Right.
they've all part of the application. Everything is together. The
Right,
map
and
is
then
done. the map-
Zorian, should it be granted, after it's granted, that's when they'll do new deeds.
I see.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, Terry,
After everything is done, then everything gets deeds, and we file them based on the filed map.
Yep.
Hey,
That'll
Mary
all
Lou.
get taken care of.
Yes, Mark.
does the Grinnell property, the people on the left side of the private road, have to sign off on that subdivision, even though it doesn't affect them because there won't be an increased number of lots?
Are they
No.
in the subdivision?
They are not in the
They're not
subdivision.
part of it.
Then no.
They don't have
No,
use
they'll
of that
be
road.
notified of the public hearing.
Correct.
Be notified of the public hearing as
Okay,
a
perfect.
neighboring property. But if they weren't in that original subdivision, we don't need them to sign off.
Just trying to confirm that so we don't have to go back to Terry for something else potentially later. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great. So,
No, and if this gets done as a lot line revision, we don't even have to have a public hearing. So that's where
No,
we're
we
going.
have to-
Unfortunately,
we
that's
have
not
to.
the law.
We have
That's
to
not the
because
way
it's
our
a
law
major
is written.
subdivision.
we're hoping that when zoning revisions are done, that will
Be changed.
be categorized differently, but right now, we can't change the subdivision law, so
And the
we're
planning
all,
board has
we're all
set the
stuck in the same position. But they're
board-
looking at rezoning and that's something they're looking at correcting, Terry, to make us all happier in the long run.
Yeah, the planning board fully supports and has already sent a letter to the town board to that effect. Okay, so I think we are done with this one. Terry, we'll have you on the agenda at our next meeting and we'll have that full packet by then. Again, we apologize for the staffing issues that are beyond our control. We understand the frustration.
Well,
now,
I just hope that, somebody can explain that to my clients because they're getting tired of hearing it from me.
you can
Well, get them on the next meeting and they'll hear it from us. We'll explain it.
YouTube.
I don't think you'd like their comments at this point.
Okay, so moving on.
All right.
Other matters. So I don't know if we have anyone on from Medenbach and Eggers or anyone representing the burn application, but the situation here is we had a continuance of the public hearing requested at the last meeting. We granted that. So we actually did, I guess, schedule the public hearing to continue for today. So my understanding is we need to open and then close that public hearing, but then pending a request from the applicant, which to my knowledge, we have not received, we then start a 60-day clock on issuing a decision because we have no new information. So we would close the public hearing.
Looks like we have
You can close
somebody
it or
here.
you can.
Oh, we do have someone here.
It doesn't look like they're here from Medenbach, but it looks like that the person who's on the line is somebody who was made a comment in the public hearing previously.
Well, it would need to be the
So you
applicant.
said it was scheduled for public hearing tonight? Was it continued to tonight or was it continued without date?
I believe we continued it until tonight.
Okay, then open it up.
Okay, so, and that, you said I just do that. I don't need to make a motion.
Yep, you can say we're opening it.
Okay, we're gonna open the public hearing. If there's anyone here, they get 7 minutes. You're addressing the board, not the applicant. Okay, is there anyone, let me stop my screen. Is there anyone here to comment or for the board to hear on this application?
Press *6.
I don't see anyone. Let me just look at the participants list. Yeah, I recognize all of these people. It looks like there's no one.
So
The gray,
my
yeah, Susan Gray is a neighboring property.
audio has frozen,
Oh.
so if you're asking me a question, I can't hear it.
Susan
You're all
Gray, do you
frozen.
have would you like to address the board?
I'm just following along because I'm interested in what decisions will be made because I have expressed some concerns. So as my son prior, I don't really have a lot to say. I think you guys make good decisions. I trust you. I just kind of want to know what's going to happen. So I am following.
Great,
And
thank you so much.
thank you.
Okay, so Mary Lou, I just don't want to screw up on a technicality here. So the kind of the concern is we have not, to my knowledge, though obviously there's some cracks currently in our communication system. To my knowledge, we have not received a request to continue the public hearing, and we have no new information. So I think my inclination would be to suggest that we kind of end the public hearing sort of as a final thing. And then that would start 60 days for a decision. Is that correct?
If you close the public hearing, yes. If you continue it, you can close it next time. I don't know.
Can we continue it in this instance without a request when there's been?
Oh, sure.
So we could
Yeah.
just do that as a courtesy.
You can continue it as a courtesy and, close it next month. And then you're time.
I think leaving it open so that in case there's something.
Too many people talking at once. Patrick, go ahead.
Sorry, I think leaving it open so in case there's something that's pending that has not gone through the paperwork process yet would be a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, we've heard a
Rick, you
lot
agree?
tonight about things that people feel they've submitted that we haven't received, so perhaps better safe than sorry.
Okay, Zorian or Mark, do you have anything?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think leaving it open due to the circumstances that we are outside our control is a good idea.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we hold the public hearing open. Mary Lou, you're saying we don't have to set a date? We can just hold it open?
If you want it to be at July, you have to set it for July. If you don't want it to be at July and you just want to wait, you can, but then you're gonna have to re-advertise.
I think it's a good idea that we set it for July, Sam.
Okay, so let's set it. So I make a motion that we hold this public hearing open until our July 12th meeting. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All right, Mr. Jones seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, the motion carries. So then the only unresolved question is whether or not to have our workshop meeting or whether we should cancel it. I just want to look quickly in our pending folder because that might help us. It sounds like Mr. Ringler would really like to get his application in front of us. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I feel like it's
Question for Mr. Medenbach, because he's got a lot of these also. Maybe, I don't know how fast he can turn some of these for a workshop meeting, but it's up to you guys.
You know,
Can I just,
the fact that we don't have administrative support until the end of this week or next week, I question whether we even be ready to have a useful workshop meeting.
And also, you didn't tell anyone tonight, come back, we'll look at this more at our workshop meeting.
Then cancel it is.
All right, Liz, did you have some sage words for us before we vote on that?
I didn't hear you, Sam.
Was that for Liz?
I thought Liz was trying to say something before we made that decision.
I was just gonna ask about, I got an email from Marin about, I guess we did not receive a QSAC subdivision submittal. I just don't know where that's at.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything new there either. I think it was I think it was maybe circulated for, I'm not sure. All right,
I'll
so
make a motion that we cancel the workshop meeting for the.
I'll
for June.
second. June 28th, I believe it is.
June
Yes.
28th.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And all opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. The June 28th workshop meeting is canceled. Any other motions, Patrick?
Before you do that, I see that Patty Brooks is back from her New Paltz meeting. So Patty, nobody showed up. We continued the public hearing till next month.
Thank you. And I just wanted to apologize to the board. I felt it was very rude of me. I thought I was going to be able to coordinate 2 meetings tonight. And I've been listening in your entire evening. You guys have put up with a lot of, I think you're doing a great job. I think
You didn't know we were, you didn't know we were running a flim flam here. I didn't know that either.
No, and I just wanted to stay on long enough to say that I have had great interactions with your board. I think you're very professional. I think that you always give everybody the opportunity that they need to be heard. And I feel that anytime that I've asked for assistance, I have gotten it. And I just wanted to stay on long enough to tell you that, because I was really feeling uncomfortable with a lot of the accusations that were being made this evening. And I just wanted to let you know that I've been working with your board. I've been doing this for over 40 years now. And I'm sorry for what you had to put up with tonight.
Here, here, Patty. I agree with you. It's Liz.
Hey, Liz.
Patrick, now's your chance.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, I'll second that. Motion automatically passes. So,
Yeah.
good night,
Good night,
everyone. Thanks so
everyone.
much.
See you guys in a month.
Good job, Sam. Very
Thank you.
good job.
Good job, Sam.
Excellent job, Sam.
Great job,
Yeah.
Sam.
Good job, Sam.
Bye-bye.